Thank you, Jeff. So if you just share a little bit about how you got interested in franchising as a venture capitalist, and how did you find your co-founder?
Yeah, sure. So the co-founder piece is easy. We are partners in the venture capital firm, and so he and I were um, interested in looking at opportunities outside of the fund that wouldn't necessarily be a venture focused endeavor, but still more around owning a business and operating it. And so we looked at a lot of different types of businesses as part of that, all the way from some software, small scale software businesses to serve the services industry and beyond. I know the founder personally of Ninja Nation, and so in speaking with him, got to learn a lot more about the plan for scaling out Ninja Nation and his vision for it, which aligned well with me. Also, two of their three corporate stores are based in Colorado, where I'm located. So my kids have been going over to Ninja Nation since probably for at least 3 years. So I've been able to witness their experiences through Ninja Nation, and there was just a lot that appealed to me. And as we got deeper into it, liked it more and more, and ultimately ended up agreeing to become franchisees.
Perfect, thank you. So with the routes that a prospective franchisee can take, it's either single unit, multi-unit, or area development. So like, how did you decide on the area development deal? And it's a more commitment than the other two routes. So kind of like, how did you gain confidence in wanting to do that, to commit to like a schedule and the number of units that you will open?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit unique with Ninja Nation in so much that the franchisor is still a startup in and of itself. So it's not. It would be very different than if we had done this with, pick some massive franchisor like a Chick-fil-A or something like that. It would have been very, very, very specific. So for Josh and I, we weren't terribly interested in doing just a single unit and having this this small lifestyle business, if you will. So the goal was to put some scale behind this and make it big enough to be interesting. So so that's where this all started. So we agreed to do 10 of them at the beginning. And if you're going to do that, you need to be you need to have these markets kind of cornered. It's very difficult to split markets in this model for a whole host of reasons. And so, so we as I mentioned, we originally started with Texas, or not Texas, but specifically Houston. And so that was our market we were going to go develop. Pricing and so forth around real estate was, didn't really match what we needed. And so came to an agreement with the franchisor that we would instead start with the Phoenix market. And so that's really the essence of it. So an area development deal within a startup franchisor is just going to be slightly different than it would be with a much more established organization. So I would call it a little bit of a hybrid of an area development deal and just a multi-unit franchisee arrangement.
Got it. So you mentioned that originally it was planned to launch in Texas. Now it's in Arizona, but neither you or Josh are like in Arizona. So share kind of like with the hyper-local nature of franchising, kind of like how do you manage it remotely, and how did you decide to like have it be in another state, and how it's like working out?
I probably, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't recommend it. It just creates it's just harder, right? Like in our local markets, we have, Josh and I both have very, very deep networks, and the ability to lean into those networks to help build the awareness in the early days would have been significantly easier than it is to do so from afar in a market that you don't have real relationships in. And so I think there's certainly a substantial advantage to building these things in the market that you're located. But for us, the Colorado was where the corporate locations are, and so we didn't think it made much sense to be there, which is where I'm located. And then Josh is located in New York, and New York's just a much bigger, harder thing to state to tackle than around a whole number of factors than it is in some of the other areas that we were looking. So ultimately for us, we just kind of looked at market dynamics where there, big concentration of people, where, a lot of young families, a lot of focus around youth, things like youth sports, certainly climates being very warm in the summer and so forth, that's driving people indoors was Houston and Phoenix make an awful lot of sense. I think we love those two as markets themselves, but it's been, it's you can't say it's not harder being farther away. So we have a really good manager in place that manages the day-to-day of it, and then we've done a lot of work on our own to build relationships with a variety of people in Arizona, and kind of start building that network that we don't already have internally, and it's going well. It just takes more time than it would if you already had an embedded network.
Definitely. So with the manager / operator that you mentioned, so it's my understanding that both of you work full-time on your other career. So I guess, how did you find that person, and how did you vet them to, essentially trust your business to them, right? To some extent.
Correct. I work a lot on this, so it's not as though it's set it and forget it. I spend a decent amount of time on it. I spend a decent amount of time out there and in the community out there, and ultimately at the facilities as well. But our manager, as well as all of our other employees, were just found off of hiring sites, right? So I think specifically, and I believe this to be true. There's probably some nuance in there, but I believe pretty much every single employee has been sourced via Indeed, and so that's where we spend a lot of time. And if you're going to do it right, you need to be reaching out to people that you think fit the profile, not just waiting for people to come to you and who are looking for a job. So a lot of effort on Indeed, but have found ultimately really good people, and continue to hire pretty aggressively around the hourly employees there, generally all off of Indeed.
Cool. So just last question. So there is this wave of corporate and tech talent and people from finance looking into alternative sources of, cash flow, or just alternative careers. Being on the other side, why do you think so many people who are interested in business ownership through franchising are kind of not making the leap, and then just continue to search around?
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive to become a franchisee. So, and it's cumbersome, right? If you're for most people, they're not gonna put up all of the capital necessary, to buy the franchisee rights, and then also to build out the facility, whatever it is. You could, whether you're a quick serve restaurant all the way up to a gigantic gym like us and everything in between. I think the vast majority of people are going to put up some capital, and then they're going to go look for a loan to finance the rest of it. And really the only loans that are out there for first-time franchisees are SBA loans, and it's and they're hard, right? They're cumbersome. It's not it's not an easy way to go about it. You're personally guaranteeing everything. And so, like any business ownership, it sounds great in principle, but it's expensive, it's hard, and it's a big bet. So I think probably people love the idea of owning their own business and having a cash flow and so forth. But then you look into it and you're like, wow, that's expensive. And oh, by the way, I have to do, like, I can't just like set it up and then walk away. I need to do, I need to do a significant amount of work to make this thing happen. If you dig under the hood, it probably gives people a lot of hesitation, to do something like that, unless you're, maybe have a significant amount of capital and time. Then I think you get over some of those hurdles. But if you're just somebody who's, built up a nice career, have a little bit of excess cash, you'd love to make that work for you in a different way besides, traditional financing opportunities, like you get under there and those things I mentioned can be scary. And so it's not surprising that the funnel of people looking at opportunities to actually those that commit or is narrows pretty significantly as you go down the funnel.
You have 2 units open out of the projected 10. I guess like you do kind of have a plan there, but how do you see yourself like going forward with like your VC career, with Ninja Nation? It's kind of like what's next?
Well, I don't think it's anything different than it is today. Necessarily, I think the big question for the Ninja Nation piece of it is how far we actually take it. Yes, we have the rights to do 10, but I think it's like any business, you kind of need to nail it before you scale it, if you will. So we've got the couple open in the market, and we want to see that these can be sustainably successful. And then at that point, you push forward. So where this goes, like long term, who knows? Like, do we become owners of other franchises or, under other brands or so forth? I don't know. But for now, right, the focus is just nailing the execution and then going from there. And yeah, I have a day job of, running a venture capital fund. So it's right now that's how at least the short to medium term future looks.
So you do work a lot.
Yeah, I work a lot. Yes, I do work a lot. That's for sure.